Alrighty. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Really glad to have everybody with us for another TACCM show, if you will. Today, I'm really excited to introduce Slingshot and the mighty minds of Brandy Eddings and Lindsay London, because today we're going to talk about paid search and optimizing paid search for enrollment growth. The ladies will walk us through the core fundamentals and advanced best practices of paid search. That includes campaign structure, keyword strategy, targeting, creative alignment, budgeting, all the good stuff. Now, if that sounds scary or complicated, we chose this group because they make the most complex things sound really simple and easy and better to grasp and understand. So that's why they're great at their job and they're great partners. So really excited to introduce them as I did and hand it off.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction, David. And apologies, my camera is not working at the moment, but my name is Lindsay London. Work at Slingshot, and I head up our paid media department. We're an agency that has been around for a little over 25 years. So, and we're an independent kind of full service agency. As I said, I head up the media department. Brandy Eddings heads up our performance team. So anything paid search, paid social, she has a vast experience in paid search, and she is who I consider the smart one behind this. So she'll be taking you guys more through the intricacies of things. We'll go through the presentation, and if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or we'll also have some time for that at the end as well. All right. So to kick off, like we said, we're talking about optimizing paid search for enrollment growth. So we'll start with a little bit of paid search 101 here, right? So we're going to start at the beginning, and then we're going to walk through some more complexities as well. But we always like to level set to make sure we're all kind of using the same baseline for knowledge. So the first thing that we're looking at here is, what is paid search, right? So this is sponsored search results that are shown above, kind of those organic results within the search engines. You are paying, it is a ad that is running, right? And paid search has lots of different names. It can go by search engine marketing or SEM, or it can go by PPC, which is pay per click, or CPC, which is cost per click. You will hear us talk about it as paid search or SEM. So those are kind of the two ways that we will talk about it today throughout this presentation, but it goes by many names. But most of it is focused on, you're not necessarily paying by anytime your ad is served, you're more paying when a result occurs. So whether that's a click or a conversion, there's lots of different ways that you can set that up. Paid search also works on an auction basis, right? So you and a bunch of other companies, you're going in and you guys are bidding on keywords. And there's a number of factors that go into that besides just your bid, which we'll talk about later. But whoever has the best bid and the most relevance kind of wins the auction and then gets their ad to serve. And then you can also do some different targeting with paid search. Most of it is based on keyword lists, though. That's kind of the foundation, but we'll talk about some of the other ways that you can do targeting as well. And then one thing that we want to talk about was paid search and SEM versus SEO and organic results. So it's a little bit harder to see, but really what we want to showcase is we have these sponsored results here up at the top. And these are all kind of like the paid ads here. And then it goes down into the organic results, which are not paid for at all and are really based on your relevance and your website content. So this is when you see places on the map or you see other results here. And so what we're going to be focusing on today is this kind of top part here, which is just that kind of paid search side of things. And so we did want to start off with, why does paid search matter, right? What's kind of the point? Why should we be focused on it? We think this is going to be a key foundation and cornerstone for colleges. The first part is that paid search results showed up before organic search results. So, and what I just showed you, right, we saw paid search results first, and then we saw organic search results. Now, I will say we are seeing some changes in the way that these results show up as we see the introduction of AI in platforms. For instance, Google has AI overviews, and so you might type something in there, you see their little AI overview, then you see the paid search results, and then you see organic results. So there are some kind of changes happening as we talk about that right now. But they always show up before the organic results. The second is it's capturing high intent users, right? So people who may be searching for a certain degree or nursing programs near me, right? We know that they are relevant people, so we want to make sure that we're in front of them. And the next is that paid search is really a great way to go up against colleges who have larger ad budgets. I think this one's really key, especially when we're talking about community colleges, right? You could be competing in some places that have really significant dollars, but there are ways that as long as you are more relevant and you have set up your search campaign better, that you can really go up and win bids against these larger colleges, even though they may have more money. So Brandy will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but I do think that that is key. The next thing that paid search, why it's important is it increases click-through rates. So when we look at having paid search along with just organic results, what we do see is that an increase in people clicking on those organic results when we also have paid search running as well. So people are naturally going to click through, right, on whether or not it's relevant to them. But we want to increase that. So we see a 15% increase in people clicking on those organic results when we have paid search running. And really that's just because, right, they're seeing your name twice. And so it feels more trustworthy to click on your organic results when they're like, oh yeah, I've seen this name now, I've seen it twice. And then the last one is being able to defend your brand terms. This is really key. We don't want other colleges or other programs to be able to showcase their ads when somebody is looking for your specific brand name. We want to be able to defend that, and that your ads are always kind of showing number one on those brand name results. And we usually see that it's typically a lot cheaper for you to bid on your own brand name because you're the most relevant, because it's your name. So while other people can show on it, it's going to cost them a lot more. So we want to use, a little bit of money to help defend those brand terms. And then we'll talk about how paid search fits into the funnel, right? While paid search in general is what we call more of a bottom of the funnel tactic, right? It's really driving a lot of those conversions. There are lots of different types of queries that people have that can tell you where they are in their exploration process, essentially, right? So we can have something up at the top like community college near me. Okay, great. We know they're interested in a community college, but we don't know what they're interested or when they're interested in applying or anything of that nature, right? We just know they want a community college. That's much broader. So you do want to have broad queries, but you don't want to have too many. So you want to be a little bit more focused on those. You have kind of the mid funnel, right, where they're looking for a specific program, maybe a nursing program, HVAC certification, whatever it may be. They're looking at the cost. So we know a little bit more about them, right? We know what is that program that they're actually looking for. And then we have the bottom of the funnel, which are going to be the highest intent converters, right? If they're searching for something with your college's name in it, right? So apply to X college here. And so those are the people we want to make sure that we are always capturing and always getting. And then for the SEM landscape, I mentioned a little bit ago, right, where we talk about AI, and things have been changing a little bit with the introduction of AI. We are focusing this presentation on just the paid search side of things, but we did want to note is even as we see a big increase in AI, as we see a big adoption of people using AI to search for things, there's about 60% of people ages 18 to 34 use AI tools at least once a month, right? So it's a really big adoption rate. But what we're seeing is while a lot of people have adopted AI tools, they're really only using them on like either a monthly or a weekly basis. Whereas with paid search, they're still using this multiple times a day. And so Google is really the still dominant platform in this landscape when we look at this percentage, right? When we look at, this is just the default search platforms used by consumers, 60% are using Google. And so that's a default. So we can see some of these other ones where we have ChatGPT or some of these other AI platforms within here, but they don't nearly match the reach that we're looking at in Google. So for right now, even as we see these huge changes in AI, Google is still the #1 search platform and the place where most people are still going. And so now I'll pass it off to Brandy to talk through some Google ad campaign tips.
Okay, Looking at the different types of campaigns, there's quite a variety. So first you have your traditional keyword search campaigns, and then you have the performance max campaigns where Google takes advantage of showing across search, display, YouTube, Gmail, Discover. So it's kind of an all-in-one campaign. Um, they really promote this one a lot. The difference for that I like to explain is that I've been doing this for a very long time. And in the beginning, Google used to make it to where when you created a campaign, it automatically opted you in to all of those different platforms. And you couldn't opt out. Then we finally won and you were able to opt out of some of them. Now it moved to where you can create separate campaigns for each of these. But enough time has passed that Google has rebranded that and said, no, it's great. Everybody should be doing PMAX. And so it's really promoting hard as that it's this fantastic new thing that has fantastic performance for everyone, which isn't necessarily true unless you have an e-commerce and you're selling a lot of different products and you have a product feed. Then we do see really good performance. If you're not in that category, then it can tend to eat a lot of budget and doesn't give you a whole lot of insights into exactly what is performing and what's not performing. A lot of it is hidden behind the scenes. So you just have to be very careful with it and test it. And then, of course, there's shopping campaigns, which we all see those ads where it shows you actual products and lets you compare different advertisers on um, who has the best product and what actually matches your search. Then you have app campaigns, so you can promote across Google Play and YouTube and the display network to get people to download your app. Those are the core ones. In addition to that, you have display, which used to be a horrible, horrible kind of campaign, but they've improved it a lot over the last decade. So these are really good, but it's basically the display ads that you see. Um, we have video, which is YouTube, and then they also have different partners that are a part of that network. So, and that channel can be really great too. And then you have demand gen type of campaigns, which this is another one where they're promoting really, really hard that it's fantastic. I don't have anything negative to say about it. I don't think it's quite as great as they like to say that it is, but it opts YouTube and it shows those videos are highlighted in Gmail and Discover, but again, not a whole lot of visibility into the details of what's performing. So there's other types of campaigns too that they like to throw out, local, discovery, and smart, and there's all kinds and they change constantly. Then looking at the typical architecture, just in case nobody's in there on a day-to-day basis, like I am. So campaigns are typically where the account is broken up by budget or a specific topic. Most targeting, except for keywords, is applied at the campaign level. So that's where you go in and you put in your geo targets, your budget, start, end dates. A lot of that can only be manipulated at the campaign level. Campaigns are typically grouped by topic, but they can also be grouped by goal and bid strategies. Then ad groups underneath those are the more specific topics within the campaign. So that's where it contains your keywords, where your bids are typically applied, and then it also contains the ad copy. So that's how they're all grouped out. Then for keywords, your options, you can have different types of, that I said match twice. You can have different type of keyword matches. So you can say for broad, that pretty much kind of includes anything and everything that you kind of play the word association game. So if you had a keyword community college set on broad, then you could match 2-year colleges or how to start college on a budget, college alternatives. Another example of that it doesn't seem to care about word order. So for this, a good example is the huge difference between a community college and a college community. So it's very important to pay attention to how you have which match types and what kind of traffic you're driving. So phrase match, that one, it'll keep it in the same order, but it can still include additional things. So for example, community college, it would also match Dallas Community College or community colleges near me. So it can add in additional terms to that search phrase. And then you have exact match where you only match to those two specific words. So if somebody searched community college, you would only show up if, sorry, I said that reversed. If you're bidding on that as an exact match, you will only show up for that particular keyword. So it's important to have a strategy going in on what types of keywords you want to have and what's an acceptable match type for that. Then going into the targeting capabilities. So you have a lot of options. You can do keyword targeting. So you just use the keywords to determine when your ad is triggered. There's device targeting, so you can adjust your bid. So if you know you get more conversions on a desktop rather than nobody gets conversions on a tablet, is so rare. So you could bid down that kind of traffic, and you can bid a little bit higher for a desktop. For retargeting, you can retarget people that have come to the website and not converted. You can specify exactly what page they dropped off on. There's a lot of controls that you can put in on those. I highly recommend retargeting campaigns because you can get, it drives conversions at a much lower cost than your regular standard keyword targeting. So it's really good to capture those people that left the site for whatever reason. You can do geo-targeting, so you can go from a country down to a radius around an address, so you have a lot of flexibility there. Time scheduling, so you can create, this is really important if you have a very limited budget. So you can say, okay, I only want to show on these days and these hours. And that way you can cut down on your cost and you're not spending on times of day where you might have a whole lot of clicks and no conversions at all. And then you can also do customer match. So if you have a really clean CRM data, you can put that in and Google will match those users to people that it knows on its side. And then it scrubs your data so it doesn't keep your data. And then it will go out and find people that are very similar to the people that you put in. And that can also be a lot cheaper for your bidding to capture those people than, I almost want to say cold calling. It's more of a warmer audience. Then to talk about the way that paid search really works is all about your quality score and your bidding. So this is a part that not a lot of people go into detail and can be a little confusing. So the quality score that Google assigns is based on your keyword relevance, your ad relevance, your historical performance, and your landing page experience. So it's everything all together that makes up that score. And no matter what anybody says, there is in fact a quality score assigned to the account level. I've had that verified by Google at Google. I pinned them down and they said, yes, there is. So you have to be careful on your whole account on how well all of your campaigns as a collective also perform. So that, in fact, that is what determines on how much you pay per click. So you can't just pay to be in the top position. So it's going to look at your bid, your quality score, and that's what's going to determine where you show in that search result. So even though you are bidding way ahead of anybody else, you still may only show in third place. And then the person in first place, because they had a much better quality score, will pay a whole lot lower and still win the bid. So it really is an auction, but not just a pay auction. It's based on quality. So it's really important to pay attention to all of the elements of your campaign to make sure that you have a really good quality. And then they don't add it in their little thing, but there is the element again of your account quality score. And that is assigned at the domain level. So even if you were to create a whole brand new account, it would still follow you because it's based on your core domain. Now the fun part. So we're going to go into a little bit more of the paid search strategy. And I tried to keep this more focused on higher ed. So with my experience of doing higher ed campaigns, I sat down and I was like, all right, what are the most common things that I come across when I do an audit on an existing account? So here are some of the top things that I see. So a lot of people like to stuff the ad groups with as many keywords as they possibly can. Really, you want to kind of keep it limited. 20 is extreme. Anything over 20 is ridiculous. So if you have ad groups that have like over 100 terms, that's very bad. Don't do that. It can lead to you just have trouble managing it. And it's hard to be really strategic that way. And you're kind of outpunning your coverage, really. If you don't have enough budget to cover all those keywords, then it's just not useful to have them. Some people have a lot of overly broad terms that are they're very generic, and they can be capturing all kinds of traffic that is not relevant to what you actually want. And then this is the biggest thing, is try to avoid keywords that fall in that, but somebody might search for this, or maybe somebody would look for this. If it doesn't have a proven track record of driving traffic, you've got to kill it, because that's usually what makes up the mass keyword list that that I typically come across. It's the might and maybe keywords that are just living in there that shouldn't be. Another thing that I see is the account is losing impression share, and that can be due to budget constraints, and that affects visibility and potential conversions. So you really have to pay attention. And impression share is basically the equivalent to share of voice. So you're going to miss out, where you're only going to be able to show like 10% of the time when someone did a search and you really were the best match for that. But because of budget constraints, then you don't even get to be in the bidding auction. So another big one that I see is poor tracking. Either it was never set up properly, or there are way too many goals, which confuses the AI system to optimize. If it's like you want everything, and you can't have everything, it's like you can't do a campaign that is both awareness and conversion focused. They're two very separate goals, and you want to keep those differentiated. So you don't want to confuse the campaigns for it to optimize to completely different things. Some of the other things is with the quality and accuracy of accounts. So a big one is coming across ads that have a poor ranking, so which Google's very transparent about that. It'll tell you this is an excellent ad, this is a poor ad. A lot of times you're going to fall in the average, and that's fine. Being average is fine. To get to excellent, you almost have to like overdo it. Sometimes you can get excellent easy, but average is perfectly fine. But you do want to avoid poor. If Google sees your ad as a poor ad, you're not going to show as much as you could have, and that's another way that you can lose impression share and just never see the light of day, because it feels like your ad is terrible. So multiple issues with keyword strategy. So the biggest thing that I come across is the absence of negative keywords. So negative keywords are very important to sculpt traffic that you are getting to your website. So you want to look at your search query reports and be like, oh, we showed up for this. No, I don't want that, and eliminate that. Like some good examples are for you guys would be free, jobs, salary. Those are just some of the gimmies that you want to eliminate those, because that doesn't pertain to getting someone to enroll. A lot of people have poor keyword match management. So you'll either, it's usually one or the other. I'll come across an account where everything is on broad. So it's just anything and everything. And then I'll come across with the opposite, where everything is exact match and there's no room to be able to adjust to the way that people do search. And then for higher ed, mostly, is because of the poor keyword type, then it's mixing the programs into one ad group, even though you don't think you are. it's happening because the keywords, if they're overly broad, you're going to be sucking in traffic. And the bad thing with that is then you are no longer sending people to the right landing page because it's a different program than what you meant for the ad to show and drive traffic to. The biggest thing is leaving in dead weight. If you have a lot of poor ads that are active in the campaign, or you have a ton of keywords that have done nothing, it's just a heavy, it drags down the rest of your campaign. So all the other elements of your campaign, having a lot of dead weight in there is just going to drag down everything. There's no reason to keep it. Don't be a hoarder. So then going into a strategic overview.
Well, real quick, Brandy, I just want to say, for the keywords, the importance is not just that they're not getting impression share. If they are active keywords and they're not getting any impressions or clicks or conversions, you need to pause those keywords and not just leave them in there and think that they're not doing anything to your account.
Yes. Thank you, Lindsay. All right. So you want to focus on Google because it is the largest platform. So I know a lot of people are like, whoa, what about Bing? And if you have, because Google dominates Bing's not, I don't want to say no one should ever do Bing, but unless you have an abundant budget that you just don't know what to do with and can't ever spend it on Google in some weird world, then you can expand to Bing. But I would highly recommend to focus on Google because that's where the traffic is. You want to look at your historical performance to prioritize high intent themes. So segment campaigns by the user's intent. Are they searching for you by brand? Are they specifically looking for registration, a specific program, or are they looking for online classes? You want to have those segmented out. You want to use exact and phrase terms that have proven their performance. Then you can do a very controlled broad expansion to test new keywords and branch out a little bit, but you want to do it in a very controlled environment so that you're not just going anything and everything, but you want to keep a handle on those. And then I can't stress enough the use of negative keywords to filter out irrelevant traffic and to save on your budget. It improves your click-through rate, everything, and that'll eventually drive down your cost per click. So I know I talked a little bit about keeping your keyword list limited. That's because you want to expand over time based on the results that you're seeing. You don't want to just go out and say all these keywords and let's see what happens. You want to build that up over time to make sure that you're putting your budget in the right places. So I wanted to touch a little bit on location strategy. So for you guys, it's the primary radius around the campus, and then you have your secondary markets to reach commuters. The big thing to take away from that is you can also exclude low performing regions. So you can get very hyper focused on this if you know that you get a ton of enrollments from this one area except for this one zip code. You can exclude that zip code and then you're no longer going to be wasting budget there for whatever reason it is. But you can get very detailed with that and exclude places that you're just not seeing performance. So that is a huge save on your budget, and it helps improve your whole campaign overall. So for the bidding strategy, I want to touch on that a little bit. So you really want the algorithm to do all the work, but it can only do that if you feed it really good data. So the way that you would start out with a bidding strategy for a brand new campaign is you would do maximize conversions just as your starting point. So you just tell I want as many conversions as I can get. And then once you have some learnings from that, then you can go in and say, okay, well, my target cost per action, which is basically cost, and there's a lot of acronyms for it. CPA, cost per action, CPL, cost per lead. I guess for you can even do a CPE, so cost per enrollment. But once you have that stable data that you can set that target amount, then you go in and apply that, and that helps the algorithm know, oh, okay, this is the how much we want to pay. I'll go optimize to that. You really want to avoid manual CPC, cost per click, unless you have a very specific reason to have that campaign. I would have it quarantined off and manage that separately, because that fights the algorithm, and you're just battling a system that could be working for you. So I would avoid that. And then I wanted to hit a little bit on high performing ad copy. So typically for higher ed, you have your program name, you want to talk about the career outcome, and then you want to say, well, what benefits you have. So it's flexible program, if it's an affordable program, but you really want to speak to the life stage that the user's in, and not just the features, and not overload them. You want to hit it quick, punchy, and be like, here's what it is, this is why you should do this, and then you finish with that call to action at the end to say, this is what you do now. So you want to use that ad space as smartly as possible. So make sure you have all of those key elements, and that the ad really does demonstrate and clearly state what your ad is about. This is a bigger part. So there are so many ad extensions, and Google changes the name. Sometimes this is extensions, sometimes they call it an asset. It varies, but there are a whole lot of, basically these are add-ons to your basic ad. So in addition to your regular ad copy, you can have site links, you can have structured snippets, you can have call outs, location extensions, and image extensions. And I highly recommend taking advantage of all of these. It can be a little exhausting to go in and fill out all of these after you've written a lot of ad copy and uploaded it. I know it can be a little tedious, but all of these, Google gives a whole lot of bonus points for these, and that can help your ad quality score go up. That's usually how you can achieve excellent or above average. So these are really important. The funny thing is it helps increase your click-through rate, but I do these more for quality score, because to the user, it really doesn't make a difference, except for we'll talk about that in a bit, the real estate part of it. So
Do you want to
then
talk about what each of these are?
yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah. So site links, those are actually clickable additional text that you can have below your ad to take them to different parts of your website. So you can say, click here to see all programs, click here to apply now, or click here to look at financial aid. So it's additional avenues of sending traffic to your website outside of just that landing page that the headline's going to go to. Structured snippets are included. They're not clickable, but it's just a different additional space where you can put in what the program offers. Anything unique about that particular ad that you have, you can add that in. Call outs are more like single word terms that they really don't have a purpose. They just take up space, but Google really likes it when you have them. So that's the biggest note on that. They're not clickable. The location extensions, those are clickable, which I'm sure everybody's seen those, where the little address shows up and you can click, and it gives you the option of get more detailed information about the location, get directions, they can call. Those are really beneficial to have, especially if it really does prove that you are local as well. And that takes up a huge amount of space in a search result too. So those are really good to have. Image extensions, these are non-clickable. They are kind of silly, but they really do help your ad stand out against other competitors. So it's just a cute little image to kind of clarify what you're offering. So for you guys, it would be a lot more, I guess, like for an example, if you were promoting like a welding program, then you could have, a guy welding. So it just very visual. It stands out in the search results. It's So they're beneficial and they're kind of fun to add in. I like it because it's just besides just text. Um, so there, that's what all of them are. Measurement. So I figured these are the most typical things for you guys that I've seen. So you know you're tracking your application submissions, your lead forms, calls, people booking a campus visit. The key thing for these is to assign a value to each of those goals um, based on what you know is more likely to turn into an enrollment. So this basically tells Google, I'm willing to pay a little bit, you know, obviously you pay a lot more for someone doing an application submission. That is a very good solid lead for you. And that's more valuable to you than definitely a call, because calls can be very generic, or somebody just ask you for more information. And then you probably pay a little bit more for someone booking a visit to the campus, but not as much as you would for an application submission. So you can go in and set these, a value per these, and it doesn't actually have to be like a specific value like you would think of like with if you were selling products. You can go in and say, well, this one, to me the value is $5, but this one is only $4. So you can, that is all completely up to you on what you set that as, but it does indicate to the system which of these goals are more important to you, so that they're really great to have to help the system understand. So I also wanted to include for you guys what I feel like most presentations leave out. So I'm like, great, what now? So I wanted to give you a quick list of quick wins of what you could go out and do today, and you would see a difference tomorrow in your campaign. So the first one is to add negative keywords. You can go in and pull a search query report on the ad group level to see exactly what somebody typed in that triggered your ad. They keep a little bit of it behind the curtain, but you can still see a really big list, and you give you an idea of what is actually triggering your ad. Inside that report, you can select those terms and actually add them in as a negative keyword right inside that report, which is very handy. So you can go in and eliminate all this unwanted traffic that you didn't even realize you were getting. The next thing is to kill underperforming keywords. So if they have 0 conversions in the last 90 days, it's not going to happen. So you should just turn them off, just remove them because they're not doing anything. You don't want to keep betting on a horse that never wins. So the same thing with keywords is just get them out of there. A lot of people are nervous about removing underperforming keywords, but it won't break anything, I promise. Feel free, just remove them, and everything, it'll just improve your performance totally. Another thing, because of what we've come across a lot with higher ed campaigns, double check all of your ads to make sure that the landing page does actually match the keywords and the ad copy. A lot of times, especially for campaigns that have been running for a long time, if anything changed on the website, but nobody went back and changed the actual ad, sometimes the ads are going to the wrong program. So that's just something to just do a quick check of all of them. It's just good and healthy to know. And the other thing is adding the ad extensions, because it is free real estate, especially if you're looking at mobile search results. If you have all those extensions added to the campaign, you are taking up the entire screen with your search result, pushing everybody down. So that is really, really important to grab all that free real estate so that it is just you and all you. The other important thing to do is always optimize the campaigns, because of course paid search is not set it and forget it. You want to be adding new keywords all the time, reviewing overall performance, and then pausing underperforming keywords. I said pause because I don't want to be dramatic, but I prefer to remove them. Just remove them. It's okay. Bids. So you want to look at your bids and your bid strategy to see, are you bidding enough to actually have an impact? And you might want to drop those down. For ads, you want to look at your ad copy on a quarterly basis at least. to make sure that it still matches. And especially with seasonal stuff, you want to make sure that you don't have anything old running. And that includes the site links too, is you want to double check to make sure that, and the call outs and the structure snippets, that you're not talking about fall when it's spring. So that's another thing to look at. If you have an underperforming ad, it's just terrible, it's not going to get better, remove it. Feel free, remove it. It's not going to happen. The geo targets, you want to look at where your ads are performing and where are the best locations. And you just want to constantly be looking at it because it can change based on like new apartment complexes going up. That's like a whole large target that you could be including if you expand it a little. And then you want to keep an eye on your competitors on what they're doing. It's just really important to make sure that if they suddenly do something really cool and awesome, and suddenly you're losing, your enrollments are down and you don't know, well, what happened. Or if somebody got like a whole new round of funding and they are suddenly just have a whole lot of search budget that you don't, that's something that you want to keep an eye on. If all of a sudden you're not showing anymore and you want to figure out, well, why. And that could be it. Then on, okay, so final thoughts. So I wanted to include this because I told Lindsay I was really excited about doing this talk because I've always said if I had an opportunity to talk to people in higher ed in mass and give them a message, this would be what I would focus on. So I'm really excited about this, and so I hope you guys are too. All right. One of the biggest things that we've seen with higher ed, especially with the larger universities, is each program is very separate and handled tightly by this program has this much money, this program has this much money, and they almost compete with each other on, no, my program's better, we need more enrollments in this program, which is healthy. However, for the larger universities, it's extreme how separate they are and how competitive they are with each other, which that could actually be a huge benefit for the community college level. Because if you're able to pull your money together and optimize your campaigns, you are going to hands down be able to outperform them every day of the week because they're going to be tied up with their more internal squabbling and sectioned off budgets that you guys can go in and be a little more scrappy and you'll be able to beat them. Again, just there, it's just a huge opportunity that I've always been so frustrated with, of going, but you're one company. You can't just, I know it's a horrible comparison, but you can't have a campaign for fries and a campaign for burgers. That doesn't make any sense. You want burgers and fries, so it should be one whole initiative to capture customers instead of having the infighting. So that's my biggest takeaway for higher ed. I think that's a huge opportunity. Then we also threw in a lovely slide at the very end with terminology with some of the acronyms. So if there's some that you're not familiar with, you can go in and look at those and be like, oh, that's what that means. Okay, good. So now we'll open it up to questions. I also want to throw out there that if anybody has any questions after this, I love talking about paid search more than anything other than my little Cheweenies. I love my Cheweenies too, but I love paid search. I love talking about it. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I am happy to answer anything that may come up. If you're like, well, what about this? I'm for it, 100%.
Brandy, I think there is a question in the chat.
Yes, so the question is, how do we access our quality score?
So there, if you go into Google Ads, you can click on the columns and you can add it in. It's one that's not typically there by default, but you can add it in. And I highly recommend you go into the modify columns and look at all the things that are available. There are so many different things that you probably have no idea that you could see inside there. It's very fun.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
This might be a question for some of the other colleagues on the, but how are y'all tracking? We use Apply Texas for applications. So how are we able to try application submissions when it's a third-party vendor to receive applications and we don't have control over that?
We don't, Darren, we track those separately because that's not pay. I mean, that's not, we use a regular application as well, a regular TSTC application. So we're not just bound to the, to Apply Texas. So we have that ability to track ours and, you know, separately Apply Texas directly, not, you know, through paid, because we don't push them to the Apply.
Okay. Does anyone else, Jonathan or anyone else, use just Apply?
Yeah, we just use Apply Texas at Sanjog. We have an intermediary page, you know, that they go to, so we track that, and so that's about as far as we can go with it.
So Brandy, any thoughts on how we could track applications when we are using a third party other than a landing page like Janet is doing and we're doing as well?
I think the first thing that you could do to help measure that is having that button tagged. So when somebody clicks on apply before they go to the third party site, so you know that that action took place. That's a big starting point of going, okay, this ad drove them to the website, they stayed on the website, and then they click this button. It's not ideal, but it's a really good indicator of going, yeah, all right, we got it this far. And that's as far as you can track. But there's also things they can do on the back end, possibly. Maybe making this up, but I've seen some platforms where they can pull in some of the tracking string from a paid search campaign into the forms themselves to kind of feed back through, so you know where it came from, where that application was submitted from. So it's something to explore.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Darren, I'll just add that's essentially the tagging the button is in GA4 and with Tag Manager is how we're operating. I mean, we have a quote unquote internal application as well, but it's through Workday. So it still goes to a third party and I can't track anything to that either. So we just tag the buttons and tag the people have clicked to it and then hope that the numbers are somewhat similar to the actual applications.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add there are some third-party tools too. This gets into an issue because it increases cost. But there are some third-party tools that can be used to collect certain information about people, like a unique ID, essentially, that you can assign to everybody who comes in. And then if you can, same thing, kind of get that information passed to that third-party site, you could then match it up on the back end, but that becomes a lot more complicated and more expensive to do all of those things. So I'm in agreement with Jonathan on kind of the button click piece.
And I won't say, you know, not to pick on different agencies, but I think every agency that we've talked to in the last 5 or 10 years says that they have a solution on how that will work. And then they get in to look at it. And
Yes.
we've never gotten a solution yet.
Yeah, no, we do not. We have used
And
it.
I don't think Slingshot said that for us, but I think all the other agencies before them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we
they're really
had the buttons. We had the buttons on different calls to action, including the RFI form, and we have been able to append, if they click on an ad and then they go to the request for information form, we can attach that code to we attach the UTM to their record, and then that record now lives in Banner. And once they're registered, we can go back and cross-reference and see, okay, how many people clicked on which ads. We just did this, and so we haven't had our first full cycle yet to run the report. So I can't tell you how well it's working, but we're excited about that.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
We might have to pick your brain more, Janet. Thank y'all.
All right.
What else? Anybody? Was this helpful? I mean, did I hit the right topics that you guys wanted to know about? Was any of it too simple?
This was useful to us at Victoria College. Not too simple. This was
Okay.
helpful. And I know there are others that were not able to join that are wanting to watch the recording that will also benefit from this. Thank you all.
Yeah, this was
Hi, future viewers.
Brandy, this was great. And Lindsay, thank you guys for doing this. I thought it was very helpful.
Randy, I know you talked mostly about paid search, and I know that as you kind of hinted on this, that the pages you're sending people to can impact
Mhm.
your paid search and so forth. Are there one or two tips that you could give folks to say, here are some things that you should improve on your actual landing pages or your pages themselves that will help with both, in theory, organic and paid search?
Yes. So I think one of the biggest things is you guys have a lot to say because you want to talk about the programs. One of the things that I would highly recommend is still keep in mind the user's attention span. So you kind of want to get to the point really quick before you ask them to take an action and not brochure them to death from the beginning. So for a landing page, you really want it to be actionable and then engage them, and then they'll go read more in depth. So you don't want to just throw a whole lot of words at them at the beginning. You kind of want to warm them up to it, because if they go to the landing page and there's just an abundance of text that you have to scroll down forever to, you're going to lose them, as their attention is going to go to something else. So you want to just draw them in really quick. And kind of, I also like landing pages, especially for the demographic that you're targeting, where it kind of asks them questions and leads them down a path. So you've engaged them with it's a more of a conversation type of content. So it's like, oh yes, I do and I am interested in that, or yes, that is the path that I want. So kind of getting them to follow the breadcrumbs that way. Having a very clear call to action is the biggest important thing of saying, this is what you do next. Because they're students. You have to tell them what to do next. They have no idea. Same thing, call to action. Like, this is what you do next, is click here to find out more stuff and make that, I almost want to say, aggressive. Because again, students, it's very clear. Go here and do this now.
Well, and so related to the call to action, I know that that's an internal struggle that we have often of, do we have a single call to action, which is often an RFI form, or, they're either on the page or they're clicking to an RFI form. And then some people want to put links to all the information on the landing pages. So is there from a performance perspective, is it better to have the single call to action, or is it better to give them all sorts of links that they can, wander through our website and get lost or whatever it might be?
One, hands down, 100%. I
Can
mean,
you
you
say
can
that
have
again?
just one. There is one goal, and that's where you want to drive on to. You can have other options on the site, because you have the main menu and you have some at the bottom, but the one in the middle, it should be one focused goal, because it's kind of like herding cattle. I love analogies. You want them to go through one corral, and so that's where you're trying to get them. So you want to make it as clear as possible, this is direction you go, because you give up people a whole lot of options, they have no idea, they get confused, and they're going to abandon it, because they're like, oh, it's just too much. That's just one of, do this is the next step. And that's the goal of the landing page, is to drive that one particular option. You can create other landing pages for the other types of goals that you want to drive, but for what you're really putting money towards, this is what you want, and that should be the main call to action.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I love Q&A. I wish I less presenting, more Q&A. I love the Q&A part.
All right. Seems like there's no more questions. Yeah. So we thank you guys for your time today. We appreciate it. And we'll get this presentation out to y'all so y'all can have that. And as Brandy said, she's open for you guys to reach out to her at any time. So just let us know.
Yeah, do we have contact information for Brandy
We'll send that with the presentation.
with the presentation?
Yes.
Awesome. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you
And you can
guys.
look me up on, yeah, you can look me up on LinkedIn. It's just my name. And because I'm old school and I liked LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for presenting today. We appreciate it.
Thank you
Absolutely.
guys. Thank you. This was fun. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.